You tell yourself you should be stronger than this, that needing someone is weakness, that asking is too much, that reaching out means you failed at something fundamental, at being whole, at being independent, at being enough on your own. And so you carry everything alone. You answer, "I'm fine," when you're not. You smile through exhaustion. You handle it, manage it, figure it out yourself, because that's what strong people do. That's what capable people do. They don't burden others. They don't lean, they don't crack. But notice what's happening beneath that story. Notice the weight of it, the tiredness that never quite leaves, the loneliness that sits in your chest even when you're surrounded by people. You built something that looks like strength, but it feels like isolation. It feels like a wall you can't climb over, even when you want to. You're not just being independent. You're creating your own suffering by insisting you shouldn't need what you need. Watch how it works. Someone asks if you're okay, and something in you wants to say, "Yes, I'm struggling. I could use help." But before the words come, there's this other voice, the one that says you shouldn't need to say that. You should be handling this. You should be past this by now. And so you swallow it. You say, "You're fine." You walk away carrying what you came with, plus the weight of having hidden it. The need doesn't go away because you denied it. It just goes underground. It becomes something you're ashamed of, something you have to manage on top of everything else you're managing. And the exhaustion grows, not just from what you're carrying, but from the effort of pretending you're not carrying it, from the constant vigilance of appearing strong, from never letting anyone see the cracks. You think if you can just be strong enough, you won't need anyone. But what you're actually doing is making yourself smaller and smaller until you fit inside this idea of strength that has no room for being human. Because needing isn't weakness. It's just what happens. You get tired, you get scared. You forget how to see clearly. You lose your way. This is the nature of being alive. It's not a failure. It's not something you should have transcended by now. It's just what is. But you've been taught that needing makes you a burden, that asking is taking, that depending on anyone means you're not complete. And so you build this fortress of independence, and you live inside it alone, proving to no one in particular that you can survive without anyone. Except you're not surviving. You're enduring. There's a difference. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your compassion. Not your judgment, not your demand that you be stronger. Your compassion." What if the story you're telling yourself that you should be strong enough to never need anyone is just a story? Not the truth, not a law, just something you learned somewhere from someone and carried forward without questioning it. What if strength isn't about needing nothing? What if it's something else entirely? Something that has room for vulnerability, for asking, for letting someone else hold something with you for a while. You don't have to answer that. You don't have to fix anything. Just notice the story. Notice how tightly you're holding it. Notice what it costs you to keep believing it. Notice the moments when you want to reach out and don't. The moments when you're drowning, but you wave from the shore and say you're fine. The moments when connection is right there, available, and you turn away from it because you've decided you shouldn't need it. You're not protecting yourself. You're isolating yourself. And calling it strength doesn't make the loneliness any less real. Sit with that. Not to change it, not to fix it, just to see it clearly. You've been carrying this belief like a stone in your pocket, and it's worn a hole through everything. The belief that needing is failure, that asking is weakness, that you should be complete, whole, unshakable, alone. But you're not a mountain. You're a person, and people need each other. Not because they're broken, because they're alive. The question isn't whether you should need anyone. The question is, can you see what you're doing to yourself by insisting that you shouldn't? Can you see the suffering you're creating, moment by moment, by holding yourself to this impossible standard? You don't have to let it go. You don't have to reach out. You don't have to do anything at all. Just see it. Just notice what's true. That's all. That's enough. You see them laughing together, and something tightens in your chest. Maybe it's at a cafe, maybe it's across the office, maybe it's just a video on your phone. Their heads lean in, their voices rise and fall, and there's that ease between them, that belonging. And you watch. You tell yourself you're just observing, just noticing. But underneath, something else is happening. You're measuring. You're comparing their laughter to your silence, their closeness to your distance, their ease to whatever it is you're feeling right now. But what are you really comparing? You think you're comparing moments, their moment to your moment, their Friday night to your Friday night. But look closer. You're not comparing what's actually there. You're comparing their visible joy to your invisible ache. You're comparing their outside to your inside. And that comparison, it can never be fair. It can never be true, because you don't know what they carry when they walk away from each other. You don't know the effort it took to show up. You don't know the loneliness they feel in a crowded room or the silence waiting for them at home. You're comparing their performance to your raw experience, their highlight to your whole reel. And still, the ache persists. Maybe you're comparing their belonging to your not belonging, their place in the circle to your place outside it. You imagine they have something you don't, some secret, some ease, some way of being that makes connection simple, natural, effortless. And you feel like you're always translating, always one step behind, always watching from a distance you can't quite cross. But is that what you're really comparing? Look deeper. Underneath the comparison of moments, underneath the comparison of belonging, there's something else. You're comparing who you think you should be to who you think you are. You're measuring yourself against an image, an idea. You see them laughing and you think, that's what a normal person does. That's what someone worthy does. That's what someone lovable does. And then you look at yourself and find evidence of lack, evidence of wrongness, evidence that you are somehow not enough. The suffering isn't in their laughter. The suffering is in the story you build around it. You take their moment of ease and turn it into proof of your inadequacy. You take their closeness and turn it into a mirror that shows you everything you believe you're missing. And then you carry that mirror with you. You carry it to the next gathering, the next conversation, the next moment when you might actually connect. And the mirror gets heavier. Because you're not just comparing anymore, you're trying to fix what the comparison revealed. You're trying to become the person who laughs easily, who belongs naturally, who doesn't feel this ache, and the trying itself becomes another layer of suffering, another way you're not enough, another gap between who you are and who you think you should be. The Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment. And what are you attached to here? Not their laughter. You're attached to the belief that their ease means something about your worth. You're attached to the idea that connection should feel different than it does. You're attached to a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet and maybe never will. And in that attachment, you miss what's actually here. You miss the way your breath moves in your chest as you watch them. You miss the aliveness of your longing, painful as it is. You miss the fact that you're here, aware, feeling, present. You miss that the ache itself is proof that you want connection, that you value it, that somewhere in you, underneath all the comparison and measuring, there's a deep human desire to be seen and to see others. But you can't feel that desire clearly when you're busy measuring. When you're comparing their laughter to your silence, you're not actually present to either. You're lost in the gap between them. You're lost in the story of what should be instead of what is, and what is. Right now, there are people laughing. Right now, you're watching. Right now, there's an ache in your chest. Right now, thoughts are moving through your mind, building stories, making meaning. Right now, all of it is here. The laughter, the watching, the ache, the stories, all of it passing, all of it changing. None of it solid, none of it permanent. Their laughter will end, your ache will shift, the moment will dissolve into the next moment and then the next. And still, you'll be here, watching, comparing. Or maybe, just maybe, seeing. What are you really comparing when you watch other people laugh together? Maybe you're not comparing anything real at all. Maybe you're just watching the mind create distance where none exists. You're sitting with something uncomfortable right now. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's just this vague heaviness that won't leave. And somewhere in the feeling itself, there's this other thought moving underneath it. The thought that says this feeling means something is wrong with you, that it's evidence, proof that you are broken. Notice how quickly that happens. The feeling arrives, and before you've even fully felt it, you're already interpreting it. You're already making it mean something about who you are. The sadness isn't just sadness anymore. It's a sign of your brokenness. The anxiety isn't just anxiety. It's confirmation that you're damaged in some fundamental way. And once that thought takes hold, the feeling gets heavier. Because now you're not just feeling what you're feeling. You're carrying the story about what the feeling means. You're carrying the judgment. You're carrying the fear that if this feeling is here, then something about you is permanently wrong. But look at what's actually happening. The feeling itself, whatever it is just sensation. It's energy moving through your body, tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, restlessness in your limbs. That's all it is in its raw form. Just sensation, arising and changing, moment by moment. The suffering comes when you add the layer of meaning. When you decide that this feeling shouldn't be here. When you decide that feeling this way means you've failed at being a person. When you turn a temporary experience into permanent evidence. You do this because you've been taught to. You've been taught that certain feelings are acceptable and others are not. That calm is good and anxiety is bad. That happiness means you're doing it right, and sadness means something's gone wrong. So when the uncomfortable feelings show up, you don't just feel them, you judge yourself for having them, and underneath that judgment is a kind of grasping. You're grasping for a version of yourself that doesn't feel this way, a version that's fixed, healed, whole. You're treating your current experience as something that needs to be gotten rid of before you can be okay. Before you can be the person you're supposed to be. But notice the assumption in that. The assumption that there's a correct version of you waiting somewhere in the future. A version without these feelings. A version that's finally, permanently okay. And this feeling right now, this is proof you haven't reached that version yet. Proof that you're still broken. What if there is no such version? What if the idea of being permanently fixed is just another story? What if feelings just come and go, and none of them mean anything about whether you're broken or whole? You felt this feeling before. Maybe not exactly this one, but something like it. And it passed. It always passes. It arose, it stayed for a while, and then it faded. And then another feeling came, and that one passed too. This is what feelings do. They move, they change, they're not solid evidence of anything. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. The feeling you're treating as proof, it's conditioned. It arose because of causes, lack of sleep maybe, a difficult conversation, a memory that surfaced, stress you've been carrying. It's not a statement about your fundamental nature, it's just a response, a temporary response. But when you believe the feeling is proof, you stop seeing it as temporary. You make it into something fixed, something that defines you. And then you relate to yourself as a broken thing that needs fixing. And that relationship, that's where the real suffering lives. Not in the feeling itself, but in how you're holding it, how you're using it against yourself. You can feel anxious without being an anxious person. You can feel sad without being broken. The feeling is just the feeling. It's the story you wrap around it that turns it into evidence. And right now, even as you're sitting with this, the feeling is already different than it was a moment ago. It's shifting, maybe getting stronger, maybe getting quieter, but it's not the same. It never stays the same. That's its nature. To move, to change, to pass through. You're not broken. You're just feeling something, and you've learned to interpret that feeling as proof of something larger, something permanent, something wrong. But the interpretation isn't true. It's just another thought, another layer, another way of resisting what's actually here. The feeling doesn't need to mean anything. It can just be what it is, uncomfortable, unwanted, present, and still just a feeling, not evidence, not proof. Just this moment's experience, already changing, already moving, already on its way to becoming something else. You're waiting for someone. Maybe you don't say it out loud. Maybe you don't even let yourself think it clearly. But somewhere inside, there's this quiet belief that when the right person comes, when they finally see you, when they choose you, something will shift, something will settle, you'll finally be okay. And so, you wait. You wait through the days that feel too empty. You wait through the nights that stretch too long. You scroll, you search, you wonder if today might be the day. If this person might be the one who will make sense of all this heaviness you carry. But notice what's happening here. You're placing your okayness outside yourself. You're handing it to someone who hasn't arrived yet, someone who may never arrive. And in doing that, you're creating a kind of poverty right now, in this moment, a feeling that what's here isn't enough, that you, as you are, aren't enough. This is the waiting that exhausts you, not the calendar kind of waiting, not waiting for a bus or waiting for water to boil, but this deeper waiting. This waiting that says, my life begins when they arrive. My peace begins when I'm chosen. My worth begins when someone confirms it. And the mind builds such beautiful stories around this, doesn't it? It imagines the relief, the warmth, the way everything will finally make sense when you're held, when you're seen, when someone stays. The mind rehearses conversations that haven't happened. It practices a version of you that feels lighter, softer, more complete. But that version of you requires someone else to exist. And so you're not really here. Not fully. You're leaning forward into a future that hasn't come. You're living in a story about arrival while missing the fact that you're already here, already alive, already breathing. The craving for someone to complete you is so human, so ordinary. But look at what it does. It turns every person you meet into a potential answer. Every connection becomes a test. Every conversation carries this hidden question: are you the one who will save me from myself? And when they're not, when they leave or disappoint or simply live their own life, the emptiness returns. Heavier now, because it confirms what you feared, that you're still waiting, still incomplete, still not okay. But the emptiness was never about their absence. The emptiness is the space you've been refusing to meet. The space inside that feels too big, too quiet, too undefined. The space that asks you to be here without someone else filling it. You keep thinking someone will arrive and make you whole. But wholeness isn't something another person brings. It's not delivered. It's not granted. It's not confirmed by being chosen. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Not when someone validates you, not after you've been picked, not once you've proven yourself worthy of staying. Right now, as you are, in this unfinished, uncertain, waiting moment. But the mind resists this so deeply, because if no one is coming to save you, then you have to be here with what is. You have to feel the loneliness without making it mean something's wrong. You have to sit with the longing without turning it into a mission. You have to meet yourself without the promise that someone else will make it easier. and that feels unbearable sometimes. So you keep waiting, you keep searching, you keep believing that the right person will arrive, and finally, you'll be able to rest. But notice, even in the relationships you've had, even in the moments when someone did choose you, did see you, did stay, the okayness didn't last, did it? It felt good. It felt like relief. But then the mind started asking, will they leave? Am I enough? What if they change? What if I'm too much or not enough or just not right? Because the mind that waits for someone to make you okay is the same mind that will doubt them when they arrive. The problem was never the absence of the person. The problem is the belief that your okayness lives outside you, that it's something to be earned or given or confirmed, that you're incomplete until someone else arrives and tells you you're not. But you're not incomplete. You're here, breathing, alive, aware of this moment, this feeling, this waiting. And maybe the waiting itself is what needs to be seen, not solved, not fulfilled, just seen. What if no one is coming? Not because you're unworthy, not because you're broken, but because okayness was never something another person could deliver. What if you're already here, already whole, already enough, and the only thing missing is your willingness to stop waiting and see it? When the room goes quiet, something in you tenses. Maybe you reach for your phone. Maybe you turn on music, the television, anything that fills the space. Maybe you suddenly remember something urgent you need to do, somewhere else you need to be. The silence arrives, and you move away from it, quickly, almost without thinking. What are you running from? It's not the quiet itself. The room has always been quiet. Silence has always been there underneath everything. What you're running from is what the quiet reveals. When the noise stops, you start to feel it. That restlessness sitting in your chest. That question you've been avoiding. That feeling you're not quite enough, or that you've done something wrong, or that you're wasting your life. When the room goes quiet, all the things you've been outrunning catch up to you. And so you run again. You fill the space. You scroll. You plan. You worry. You remember. You keep the mind busy because a busy mind doesn't have to feel. A busy mind doesn't have to sit with the uncomfortable truth that something inside you is unsettled and you don't know how to fix it. But here's what's happening. Every time you run from the quiet, you're teaching yourself that what's inside you is dangerous. You're confirming the belief that you can't be trusted with your own company. You're building a life where you need the noise, where you depend on distraction, where silence becomes the enemy. And the more you run, the louder the quiet becomes. Because what you're running from isn't actually in the quiet. It's in you. It's been in you all along. The quiet just stops covering it up. The quiet removes the curtain, and suddenly you're face to face with your own restlessness, your own fear, your own sense of something missing. Maybe it's loneliness. Maybe it's the feeling that you're not doing enough, not being enough, not moving fast enough towards some future version of yourself that will finally feel complete. Maybe it's grief you haven't let yourself touch. Maybe it's just the strange, unsettling awareness that you exist, that you're here, and you don't know what any of it means. The quiet doesn't create these feelings, it just reveals them. And so you keep running. You keep the room full. You keep yourself occupied, distracted, entertained, productive. You build a life that never stops moving, because if it stops moving, you'll have to feel what's underneath. But you can't outrun what lives inside you. You can delay it. You can cover it. You can turn away from it 1,000 times a day. But it's still there, in the morning when you wake up, in the space between tasks, in the moment before sleep. It's there, waiting, patient, inevitable. The Buddha said, "You can run, but there is nowhere to go." Nowhere to go, not because you're trapped, but because what you're running from travels with you. It is you. It's the part of you that feels uncertain, unfinished, afraid. And no amount of noise will change that. What if you stopped running? not forever. Not as some grand decision or spiritual achievement, just for a moment. What if you let the room be quiet and stayed there with it? What if you let the discomfort arrive without reaching for something to make it go away? You'd feel it. That tightness in your chest, that urge to move, to do, to fill the space. You'd feel the fear that maybe you're not okay, that maybe you've been avoiding yourself for good reason. But you'd also notice something else. The feeling doesn't destroy you. It rises, it moves, it changes. It's uncomfortable, yes. But it's not permanent. It's just a feeling, passing through, the way feelings do. And underneath the fear of the feeling is just you, sitting in a quiet room, breathing, alive, aware. You don't need to fix this. You don't need to become someone who loves silence or who's at peace with themselves. You just need to see what's happening, to see that you're running, and to see what you're running from. Because once you see it, something shifts, not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly, quietly, in the way things shift when you stop fighting them. The quiet stops being the enemy. It becomes just quiet. And what you find there isn't the danger you imagined. It's just yourself, unsettled and uncertain, yes, but also here, still here. And maybe that's what you've been running from all along. Not the discomfort, not the fear, but the simple, unbearable truth that you're here and you don't know what to do with that. The room is quiet now. What are you running from? You're holding on to someone who isn't here anymore, not because you're weak, not because you can't let go, but because some part of you believes that if you hold on tightly enough, they'll still be real, still be close, still be yours. Maybe they left, maybe they changed, maybe they're still in your life, but not in the way they used to be. Maybe they died, or maybe they just became someone you don't recognize anymore and you're holding on to the version of them that no longer exists. You replay the conversations, you return to the memories. You check their messages, their photos, the places you used to go together. You imagine what they're doing now, who they're with, whether they think of you. And each time you do this, you're trying to bring them back, trying to make them solid again, trying to keep them from disappearing completely. But they're already gone, and the holding on, that's where the suffering lives. Because when you hold on to someone who isn't here, you're not actually holding them. You're holding an image, a story, a feeling you once had. You're holding the past and calling it the present. You're reaching for something that has no form, no weight, no substance anymore. And your hands close around nothing again and again. And it hurts. Not because they're gone, but because you keep trying to make them stay. You tell yourself you're just remembering, just honoring what was. But look closely. There's something else happening. You're resisting. You're refusing. You're saying no to what is, because what is feels unbearable. So you retreat into what was, and you live there, in that memory, in that longing, because at least there you can still feel them. But you can't live in a memory. You can only visit it. And every time you visit, you come back to the present and feel the absence all over again. Fresh, raw, like the loss just happened. This is what attachment does. It turns love into suffering. It turns connection into grasping. It takes something that was beautiful and real and tries to freeze it, preserve it, keep it from changing. But everything changes. Everyone changes. Every moment is already becoming the past, even as you live it. And the person you're holding on to, they're not frozen. They moved, they grew, they became someone else, or they left, or they stayed. But the relationship shifted, and now there's distance where there used to be closeness. And you're still holding the old version, the one who laughed with you, the one who understood you, the one who made you feel safe or seen or loved in a way you haven't felt since. But that version is gone, and you know this. Somewhere in you, you know this. But knowing doesn't stop the holding, because the holding isn't logical. It's not a decision you made. It's a reflex a way of protecting yourself from the full weight of the loss, a way of pretending that if you just don't let go, nothing really has to end. But it already ended. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to. You're losing them over and over every day because you're clinging. You're making them into something fixed, something permanent, something that should still be here. And reality keeps showing you that they're not. And the gap between what you want and what is, that's where you're suffering. Not because you love them, but because you're trying to keep loving them in a way that no longer fits what's true. And maybe you think letting go means forgetting, means they didn't matter, means the love wasn't real. But that's not what letting go is. Letting go is just seeing clearly. It's allowing what was to be what was. It's not erasing them. It's not pretending they never mattered. It's just stopping the fight against their absence. Because the fight is what's keeping you stuck. The resistance is what's keeping the wound open. You don't have to make them stay. You don't have to keep them alive in your mind like this. You don't have to carry them everywhere you go. They were here. They mattered. They changed you. And now they're not here in the same way. And both of those things can be true. But as long as you're holding on, you're not here either. You're somewhere in the past, in the story of who they were and who you were together. And life is moving forward without you. And maybe that's the real question. Not whether you're holding on, but what you're afraid will happen if you stop. You notice it most when they leave the room. Suddenly, there's this quiet panic, this emptiness that wasn't there a moment ago, like the air changed, like something that was holding you up just disappeared. And you reach for your phone, or you follow them, or you make noise just to hear your own voice bounce back. You need someone nearby just to feel real. Not because you're weak, not because something's wrong with you, but because somewhere along the way you learn to measure your existence by whether someone else can see it. You learn to check if you're here by watching yourself reflected in another person's attention. When they're close, you feel solid. You feel like you matter, like the thoughts in your head and the feelings in your chest are actually happening. But when they're gone, even for an hour, even just in another room, you start to fade. You start to wonder if you're making it all up, if you're real at all. So you text, you call, you create reasons to be needed. You ask questions you already know the answers to. You share things that don't need sharing. Anything to pull them back, to feel their attention land on you again like sunlight. And when they respond, there it is, relief. You exist again. But then they get quiet, they get busy, they turn their attention somewhere else. And the panic comes back, sharper this time. Because now you're not just alone. Now you're proving to yourself that you only exist when someone else agrees that you do. You watch yourself doing this, reaching, clinging, creating emergencies out of silence. And you feel ashamed, maybe, or exhausted. Because it's so much work, isn't it? Building yourself out of someone else's presence, rebuilding yourself every time they look away. The suffering isn't in being alone. The suffering is in needing not to be. It's in the belief that your realness depends on someone else's confirmation, that without their attention, you dissolve. But look closely at what's actually happening. When they're near and you feel solid, what are you feeling? You're feeling relief from fear, relief from the anxiety of not being seen. You're not feeling real. You're feeling the temporary absence of the fear of not being real. And you've mistaken that relief for proof. When they leave and the panic comes, you think the panic means something's wrong. But the panic is just showing you how tightly you've been gripping. How much you've been depending on something outside yourself to tell you that you're here. You are here, right now, whether anyone sees you or not. But you don't trust that. You don't trust your own existence unless it's reflected back to you. So you keep reaching, you keep checking, you keep building yourself out of borrowed attention. And it never lasts, because nothing borrowed ever does. The person you need nearby, they're impermanent too. Their attention moves, their presence shifts. They have their own fears, their own reaching, their own exhaustion. And when they can't hold you up anymore, when they need to turn inward or away, you feel betrayed, abandoned, erased. But they were never holding you up. You were just believing they were. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your own love and affection. Not because you should practice self-love, but because you keep looking everywhere else. You keep handing yourself over, piece by piece, moment by moment, waiting for someone to hand you back to yourself, waiting for permission to feel real. And maybe right now, just for a moment, you can feel the exhaustion of that, the weight of it. How tiring it is to constantly need proof. To constantly need someone else to confirm that you're here, that you matter, that you're not disappearing. You're not disappearing. You're right here, breathing, thinking, feeling this discomfort, feeling this fear. And none of that needs anyone else to witness it for it to be true. The realness you're looking for isn't in someone else's eyes. It's in the looking itself. It's in the awareness that's here right now, noticing the fear, noticing the reaching, noticing the exhaustion of trying so hard to be seen. That awareness doesn't need confirmation. It doesn't need anyone nearby. It's already here. And maybe you don't trust that yet. Maybe the fear is still louder. Maybe you'll still reach for your phone, still create reasons to be needed, still measure yourself by how quickly someone responds. That's okay. Just notice it. Notice how you disappear yourself by needing someone else to make you visible. Notice how tired you are. And notice that even now, even in this moment of noticing, you're here. No one else required. You're alone right now, and somewhere beneath the quiet, there's a whisper. It says, no one chose you. It doesn't say it loudly. It doesn't announce itself. But it's there, isn't it? This quiet belief that being alone is evidence, proof, that if you were enough, someone would be here. And you can feel how that belief moves through you, how it changes the quality of the silence. The empty chair across from you isn't just empty anymore, it becomes a verdict. The phone that doesn't ring isn't just a phone, it becomes a statement about your worth. Every moment alone gets translated into a story about being unchosen, unwanted, left behind. Notice how the mind does this, how it takes the simple fact of solitude and wraps it in meaning. You're alone, that's what's true. But then the mind adds, and that means something about you. It means you weren't good enough. It means others saw something and turned away. It means you failed some invisible test. And once that story takes hold, you start looking for evidence. You remember the person who didn't text back, the invitation that never came, the relationship that ended, the friend who drifted away. And each memory becomes proof. See? No one chose you. The mind is building a case, and you're both the prosecutor and the accused. But watch what happens when you believe this. Watch how it makes you move through the world. You start performing, trying to be more interesting, more likable, more worthy of choosing. Or you withdraw. You decide it's safer not to try. You tell yourself you prefer being alone anyway, that you don't need anyone, that you're fine. And underneath both responses, the same belief is running. Something is wrong with me. The suffering isn't in being alone. The suffering is in what you're making it mean. Because here's what's actually happening. You're taking the present moment, this moment of solitude, and you're layering it with past rejections and future fears. You're not just alone now. You're alone because of what happened before, and you're alone as a preview of what's coming. The mind reaches backward and forward, gathering evidence, building a self out of not being chosen. And that self feels so solid, so permanent. This is who I am, the unchosen one, the one people leave, the one who ends up alone. But is it true? Or is it just a thought that keeps repeating? People have chosen you, and people have not chosen you. Both have happened. Relationships have formed, and relationships have ended. Connection has come, and connection has gone. This is what happens in a life. People move toward each other and away from each other, and none of it is fixed. None of it is a statement about your fundamental worth. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Not because you were chosen, not because you earned it, but because the one who is here, alone or not alone, is worthy of kindness." You're making being alone mean something it doesn't have to mean. You're turning a moment into an identity. And that identity hurts. It hurts to walk around believing you are the sum of other people's choices. It hurts to think that your value depends on whether someone picks you. But what if being alone right now is just being alone right now? Not a reflection of the past, not a prediction of the future, not a statement about who you are. Just this. Just the sound of your breath. Just the room around you. Just the moment as it is. The mind won't like that. It will want to make it mean something. It will want to turn it into a story. Because stories feel safer than the rawness of what is. Stories give us something to hold on to, even when they hurt. But you don't have to believe the story. You can notice it. You can see how it arises, how it tries to pull you into the past, into the future, into the narrative of not being enough. And you can let it be there without timing inside it. Being alone is just being alone. It changes, it shifts. Sometimes you're alone and sometimes you're not. Sometimes people are close and sometimes they're far. None of it is permanent. None of it defines you. And right now, in this moment, you are here. Not chosen or unchosen, not worthy or unworthy. Just here, breathing, aware, alive. The belief that no one chose you is just a thought. And thoughts arise and pass. They come and they go. You don't have to make them true. You're alone right now. And that's all that's happening. You feel it, don't you? That hollow ache that sits in your chest when the house is quiet, when your phone stays still, when the evening stretches out with no one to fill it. Loneliness. It's here with you now. And somewhere inside, you're asking it for something. You're waiting for it to become something else. You're standing at its door, knocking, demanding it open and give you what you need. But what are you asking for exactly? Maybe you're asking loneliness to prove you're worth being with. Maybe you're demanding it tell you that someone will come, that this emptiness is temporary, that you won't always feel this way. Maybe you're asking it to be the thing that finally pushes you to change, to reach out, to become someone different, someone who doesn't feel this. Or maybe you're just asking it to stop, to leave, to let you rest. And loneliness doesn't answer. It just sits there. It doesn't give you certainty. It doesn't give you company. It doesn't give you proof that you matter or that things will change. It doesn't even give you the energy to fix it. It just is what it is. And that's where the suffering begins. Because you're not really suffering from loneliness itself. You're suffering from what you're demanding it become. You're suffering from the gap between what's here and what you believe should be here instead. You want connection, but there's only absence. You want reassurance, but there's only silence. You want this feeling to mean something, to lead somewhere, to transform into something bearable. And it doesn't. So you push against it. You scroll through your phone, looking for a message that isn't there. You replay old conversations, old closeness, wondering where it went. You imagine futures where you're not alone, where someone sees you, where this ache is gone. And for a moment, the imagining feels like relief. But then you return, and loneliness is still here, unchanged, unmoved by your demands. You see, loneliness isn't withholding anything from you. It's not keeping something locked away that you deserve to have. It's just an experience, a feeling, a moment of being human. But you've turned it into a problem that needs solving, a void that needs filling, a test you're failing. And the more you demand from it, the heavier it becomes. You demand that it justify itself. You ask why you're alone when others aren't. You compare your life to what you see around you, to what you remember, to what you thought would be true by now. You make loneliness mean something about you, that you're too much or not enough, that you've done something wrong or failed to do something right. You turn a feeling into evidence, evidence that you're broken, forgotten, unwanted. But loneliness doesn't know any of that. It doesn't carry those meanings. You're the one adding them. You're the one making it solid, making it permanent, making it about who you are. And here's what you might notice. If you stop demanding for just a moment, loneliness changes. It's not the same from hour to hour. Sometimes it's sharp, sometimes it's dull, sometimes it's grief, sometimes it's boredom. Sometimes it's actually quiet, almost peaceful, until you remember you're supposed to feel bad about it. It moves, it shifts. It's not the fixed, solid thing you're treating it as, but you keep trying to make it stay still long enough to defeat it, to understand it, to escape it. The Buddha said, you only lose what you cling to. You're clinging to the idea that loneliness should give you something, that it should change you, save you, or at least have the decency to leave. You're clinging to the belief that you shouldn't feel this way, that something's gone wrong, that this isn't how life is supposed to be. And in that clinging, you lose the moment as it actually is. You lose the simplicity of just feeling lonely, without the story, without the demand, without the weight of everything you've added to it. What if loneliness doesn't owe you anything? What if it's not here to teach you or break you or prove anything about your worth? What if it's just here, the way rain is here, the way silence is here, the way this breath is here, and then gone? You don't have to like it. You don't have to welcome it or make peace with it. But maybe you can stop asking it to be different. Stop asking it to promise you something. Stop demanding it give you the connection, the certainty, the relief that it simply cannot provide. Because it can't. It never could. And maybe in seeing that, in really seeing that you've been demanding the impossible, something softens. Not the loneliness itself, but your fight with it, your argument with what is. You're here. You're lonely. And that's all that's true right now. You're sitting with this feeling again. That heaviness, that sense of being completely alone in what you're going through. And somewhere in your mind, a voice keeps saying, nobody else feels like this. Nobody else carries this particular weight. Nobody else wakes up with this exact kind of tired. It's such a quiet thought, isn't it? Not dramatic, not loud, just this persistent whisper that separates you from everyone around you. You look at people going about their day and you think, they don't know. They couldn't possibly understand. What I'm feeling is different. What I'm carrying is mine alone. And in that moment, something happens. You become the only one. The only one struggling, the only one pretending, the only one who feels like they're barely holding it together while everyone else seems to have figured something out. You become singular in your suffering, special in your pain. But notice what that thought does. Notice how it wraps around you. It doesn't just describe what you're feeling, it creates a wall. It takes the ache you're experiencing and adds something to it. Isolation. The story that you are uniquely broken, uniquely lost. That your particular flavor of anxiety or sadness or emptiness is somehow different from what anyone else has ever felt. And once that story takes hold, you start looking for evidence. You see someone laughing and you think, see, they don't feel like this. You watch someone speak with confidence and you think, they don't wake up doubting everything. You notice someone at ease and you think, whatever they have, I don't have it. Whatever they know, I don't know it. The mind is building a case, not against them, against you. It's gathering proof that you are separate, that you are the exception, that everyone else is living in a world you can't quite reach. But what if that's not true? What if that thought, I'm the only one, is just another way the mind tries to make sense of discomfort? Another way it tries to explain why you feel what you feel? Another way, it tries to find solid ground in something that has no ground at all. Because here's what's actually happening. You're feeling something difficult, something uncomfortable, something you don't want to feel. And instead of just feeling it, the mind adds a story. It says, this feeling means something about you. It means you're different. It means you're alone. It means something has gone wrong in you that hasn't gone wrong in others. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your compassion. But you're not giving yourself that, are you? You're giving yourself a story instead. A story that makes the pain mean something more than it is. A story that turns a moment of suffering into evidence of your separateness, into proof of your inadequacy. And the cruelty of it is this: the more you believe you're the only one, the more alone you become. Not because it's true, but because you stop reaching out, you stop speaking, you stop letting anyone see what's actually happening inside you. Because if you're the only one who feels like this, then saying it out loud would only confirm what you already fear. That you're too much, too broken, too different. So you carry it quietly. You perform normalcy. You smile when you're supposed to smile. You nod when you're supposed to nod. And all the while, that voice keeps whispering, nobody else, just you, only you. But what if everyone is doing this? What if the person you're looking at, the one who seems so together, is also telling themselves they're the only one? What if the competence you see is just another performance? What if the ease you imagine in others is just as constructed as your own pretending? Not to make you feel better, not to fix anything, but just to see it, to see how the mind creates this isolation, how it takes something universal, discomfort, fear, uncertainty, and makes it personal, makes it yours alone, makes it evidence of something wrong with you specifically. You're not the only one, you never were. But the mind doesn't want you to know that, because if you knew that, if you really saw that everyone is feeling their way through this, stumbling, uncertain, afraid, then the story would collapse. And the mind loves its stories. It loves the feeling of knowing, even if what it knows is painful, even if what it knows is, I am alone in this. But you're not alone in telling yourself you're alone. You're not the only one who feels like the only one. And maybe that's all you need to see right now. Not to fix it, not to change it, just to notice it. The way the mind builds walls, the way it creates separation where there is none, the way it turns shared human experience into private shame. Just notice, just see, that's all. You feel it, don't you? That hollow space inside, not sadness exactly, not quite loneliness, just emptiness. And somewhere along the way, without deciding to, you started measuring yourself against it, as if the emptiness were a scale, and you were standing on it, waiting for the number to appear. Why am I letting this emptiness decide what I'm worth? It's a question that arrives quietly, late at night maybe, or in the middle of an ordinary afternoon when you catch yourself reaching for something, anything, to fill the space. And you realize you've been doing this for a while now, checking your value against the feeling, coming up short, coming up empty. The emptiness sits there and you sit with it, and without noticing, you've made it the judge, you've given it authority. When it's present, you feel worthless. When it's heavy, you feel like nothing. When it expands, you contract. You've handed over the decision about who you are to something that doesn't even have a voice. But look at what's actually happening. The emptiness is just a feeling. It arises. It changes. Sometimes it's sharp, sometimes it's dull. Sometimes it fills your chest, sometimes it's just a faint hum in the background. It comes and goes like weather. But you've turned it into something permanent. Something that knows the truth about you. You've made it solid when it's not solid at all. And because you've made it solid, you started organizing your life around it. You reach for distractions. You scroll, you eat, you work, you plan, you imagine a future where you finally feel full. You measure your days by how much you managed not to feel it. A good day is when the emptiness is quiet. A bad day is when it speaks. But the emptiness doesn't speak. It doesn't know anything. It's just a sensation moving through you, the way hunger moves through you, the way tiredness does. It's a visitor, not a verdict. Still, you believed it. You believed that if you feel empty, you must be empty. If there's nothing inside, you must be nothing. The feeling and the truth have collapsed into each other, and you can't tell them apart anymore. This is where the suffering lives. Not in the emptiness itself, but in the story you've wrapped around it. The story that says this feeling means something about you, that it's evidence, that it's revealing what you've always suspected, that you don't measure up, that you're lacking, that something essential is missing. You've taken a passing experience and turned it into an identity. And once it's an identity, you're trapped. Because now you're not just feeling empty, you're being empty. It's not something you're experiencing, it's something you are. And if you are empty, then of course you're worthless. Of course nothing you do matters. Of course you can't trust your own value. But watch closely. The emptiness changes, doesn't it? Some moments it's vast, other moments it's barely there. Sometimes it arrives when you're alone. Sometimes it arrives in a crowded room. It doesn't follow rules. It doesn't stay put. So how can something that shifts and fades and reappears be the thing that decides what you're worth? How can something that wasn't there yesterday and might not be there tomorrow hold the final truth about you? The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. You don't have to turn away from the emptiness. You don't have to fix it or fill it. But you can see it for what it is, a condition, a temporary state, not a conclusion. You've been waiting for the emptiness to leave so you can finally feel worthy. But worthiness was never dependent on how you feel. The emptiness doesn't have that power. It never did. You gave it that power by believing it was telling you something true. And now you're here, asking why you let it decide. And the asking itself is the beginning of seeing, because you're noticing the mechanism. You're seeing how you've handed over authority to a feeling, how you've mistaken a sensation for a judgment. The emptiness will come again, maybe tomorrow, maybe in an hour. It will arrive the way it always does, uninvited and familiar. And when it does, you'll have a choice you didn't know you had. Not the choice to make it go away, but the choice to stop asking it who you are. It doesn't know. It never did. You hide. Not always. Not from everything. But when something inside you tightens, when the feeling becomes too much or too raw or too close to something you don't want to see, you step back. You look away. You busy yourself with something else. You scroll. You distract. You numb. You disappear into whatever keeps you from feeling what's right there. And there's a question underneath all of that hiding. What are you protecting? Because you are protecting something. You wouldn't hide if there wasn't something you believe needed to be kept safe, something fragile, something that might break if you let this feeling all the way in. Maybe it's the image you have of yourself, the one where you're capable, where you have it together, where you don't fall apart like this. And this feeling threatens that. It whispers that maybe you're not who you thought you were. Maybe you're messier than that, more uncertain, more afraid. And if you let yourself feel it fully, if you stop hiding, then you have to see yourself as you actually are in this moment, not as you want to be. So you protect the story. The one that says you're fine. The one that says you're strong enough, good enough, together enough. You hide because the feeling threatens to rewrite that story and you're not ready to let it go. Or maybe you're protecting your safety. Not physical safety, but the feeling of being in control. Because when you feel this way, when the emotion rises and you can't stop it, you realize how little control you actually have over your thoughts, over your feelings, over the way life unfolds. And that's terrifying, So you hide from the feeling because the feeling reminds you that you're not in charge, that anything could happen, that nothing is guaranteed. You hide to protect the illusion that you can manage it all. Or maybe what you're protecting is connection. You hide because you're afraid that if someone saw you like this, really saw you, they wouldn't stay. They wouldn't love you. They wouldn't understand. So you keep it inside. You smile when you're supposed to smile. You say you're fine when you're not. You perform the version of yourself that feels safe to show. And the real feeling, the one that's too much or too needy or too broken, you keep that hidden. Because losing them feels more dangerous than losing yourself. But here's what happens when you hide. The thing you're protecting doesn't actually become safer. It becomes more fragile, more dependent on the hiding. Because now you need the hiding to keep working. You need the distraction to keep distracting. You need the story to keep holding. And it does for a while, until it doesn't. Because feelings don't go away just because you hide from them. They wait. They sit in the body. They show up in your sleep, in your tension, in the sharpness of your reactions to small things. They find other ways to be felt. And the image you're protecting, the one where you have it all together, it's not real. It never was. It's just a thought, a collection of ideas about who you should be. And you're exhausting yourself trying to defend something that was never solid to begin with. The Buddha said, you can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself, and that person is not to be found anywhere. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. But you can't love what you won't see, and you can't see what you're hiding from. So what are you protecting? And what would happen if you stopped? Not forever, not all at once, but just for a moment. What if you let yourself feel it without pulling away, without fixing it or explaining it or making it mean something about who you are? What if the feeling was just a feeling, and you were just here, noticing it? Maybe what you'd find is that you don't actually break, that the story you were protecting wasn't the one keeping you safe. That the person you were afraid of being is just you, in this moment, feeling something difficult. And that's allowed. Maybe you'd find that hiding takes more energy than being seen. Or maybe you wouldn't find anything at all. Maybe you'd just sit there with the feeling, and it would move the way feelings move when you stop resisting them. It would rise, and it would change, and it would eventually fade, because nothing stays. Not the feeling, not the story. Not the version of yourself you're trying so hard to protect. You're protecting something. But maybe the question isn't whether it needs protecting. Maybe the question is whether it was ever really yours to keep.